On this Sunday night, Europe pushes back against Trump's latest threats to seize Greenland. The potential retaliation as the U.S. president moves forward with more tariffs targeting his plan's opponents.
He's odd. He's out of his mind.
Where does Canada stand in the growing geopolitical dispute? The mysterious disappearance of an Ontario man at a Quebec ski resort.
It's challenging because we don't have closure.
His family's pleas for answers nearly a year after he went missing. Plus, incarceration discrimination, the criticisms against Canada's justice system as greater numbers of Indigenous and Black people are jailed. And inventive solutions, the Saskatchewan man developing gadgets to help improve daily life for people with disabilities.
Global National, reporting tonight, Nitu Garcha.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. U.S. President Donald Trump's musings over Greenland have now progressed into a full-blown geopolitical crisis. On Saturday, he vowed to slap tariffs on 8 European countries opposing his plans for the U.S. to take over Greenland. He even threatened to increase them if that doesn't happen by June, escalating his threats to seize the Danish Arctic territory. Today, those countries, including Germany, France, the UK, and Denmark, issued a joint statement. They say they stand in full solidarity with Denmark and the people of Greenland, and that tariff threats undermine transatlantic relations and risk a dangerous downward spiral. Mike Armstrong looks at the united pushback to Trump's ambitions and where Canada stands in it for our top story tonight.
It's good to be wanted, but Greenlanders are finding maybe not like this.
Sad, really sad to the situation we're all living in.
With the American president insisting he has to own the land where they live and ratcheting up tensions with longtime allies, there is a sense of disbelief in the capital.
It's ridiculous.
It's queer. He's odd. He's out of his mind.
I think he has lost his mind.
Now, the disbelief is also spreading through European capitals. EU ambassadors held an emergency meeting Sunday in Brussels in response to Donald Trump's latest threats. Saturday, the president posted on social media promising new tariffs on 8 countries unless they support the, quote, complete and total purchase of Greenland. Italy's prime minister is calling the tariff threats a mistake and pushing for dialogue, while others are being more blunt. The Danish prime minister says Europe won't be blackmailed over Greenland.
Dit is niet hoe bondgenoten met elkaar
The Dutch foreign minister says allies shouldn't be treated like this and that Europe will present a common front. The territorial integrity of Greenland and Denmark aren't up for discussion. Those were comments echoed by Mark Carney Sunday.
It's a serious situation, and we're concerned. We're concerned about this escalation.
While Greenlanders protested this weekend, European leaders are now weighing how to respond. France is urging the EU to consider its economic anti-coercion instrument, something that's being called the trade bazooka. It could mean retaliatory tariffs or even restricting U.S. access to EU markets. It's never been used before and was designed to counter pressure from rivals like China, not an ally.
This is really something serious. It's not only about the Danish economy, it's about the European economy. And this is taking the crisis about Greenland to the next level.
Now, Europe's economy already took a hit from U.S. tariffs last year. More trade turmoil would hurt again, but many are saying the EU might not have a choice, that this is a question of territorial integrity and rule of law. Meantime, NBC is reporting Sunday Trump is now criticizing Canada more and more in private conversations for this country's security shortcomings in the Arctic. Mike Armstrong, Global News, Montreal.
It's being called a new chapter in bilateral relations between Canada and Qatar. The Prime Minister says the country has committed to significant investments in Canadian projects. All this as we learn more about Mark Carney's decision to accept a role on President Trump's Gaza Peace Board. David Akin joins us from Doha with more. David?
Well, Neetu, Prime Minister Mark Carney spent Sunday in the Persian Gulf state of Qatar, and it's the second time he's been in this region in 2 months.
Just as he did in the United Arab Emirates last November, Carney met with political and business leaders here as he continues to look to diversify sources of foreign investment in Canada. Here in Doha, the government of Qatar said it put out 742 Canadian flags to greet Carney ahead of his meeting with the country's head of state, Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani. Canada and Qatar signed some agreements on investments in information technology, artificial intelligence, and defense.
This is the first ever visit by a sitting Canadian Prime Minister to Qatar. It marks a new era for our relationship, one in which we move from being close friends to strategic partners.
But the two leaders also spoke about regional security matters. On Friday, Carney said he accepted U.S. President Donald Trump's invitation to join his Board of Peace. This is a multinational body charged with overseeing the reconstruction of Gaza. Details of Canada's participation in that organization are still to be worked out, but Carney said he agreed with the principle of Trump's initiative. We
still do not have unimpeded aid flows, humanitarian aid flows at scale to the people of Gaza. That is a precondition for moving forward.
Canada has not been asked to put any money into the Board of Peace, though Canadian officials say Canada is prepared to contribute financially to Gaza's reconstruction.
I will do what I can do. We will do as Canada what we can do to achieve those core humanitarian objectives.
Now, the Prime Minister has wrapped up his program here in this region, but he's got some more travel before he gets home. On Monday, he'll head to the Swiss Alps to take part in the World Economic Forum in Davos. Neithu.
All right, David Akin in Doha, Qatar. Thanks, David. In the U.S., federal troops are ready to be deployed to Minneapolis as they wait for orders from President Donald Trump. He's threatened to send in the military over clashes between protesters and immigration enforcement agents. Minnesota's governor is weighing his own response to the escalating situation. He could activate the state's National Guard to help ease tensions on the ground. Candice Cole reports.
I think Donald Trump wants to use Minneapolis as a key or a hotspot to launch his coup. He's trying to create violence so that he can send in the troops.
As tensions on the ground in Minneapolis continue to intensify between residents and immigration enforcement agents, 1,500 U.S. troops are on standby in Alaska awaiting President Donald Trump's orders to descend on Minneapolis, as Trump threatens to invoke the Insurrection Act in response to the outrage following the shooting death of Renee Good by an ICE agent. Trump sticking to his talking points that ICE is deporting some of the world's most violent criminals, asking why Minnesota is fighting this, and suggesting many of those protesting ICE are professional agitators and anarchists. But less than half the country is buying that narrative. According to polling from CBS News and YouGov, only 44% of respondents believe ICE is targeting dangerous criminals.
What this is about is coming into our city by the thousands and terrorizing people. And this is not just about resisting Trump. This is about loving and caring for the people that call this city home.
Now, lawmakers in Washington are threatening ICE's funding over the chaos playing out in Minneapolis. Democrat Senator Ruben Gallego on CNN State of the Union.
But we cannot keep funding this, this type of goon squads that are just spreading throughout the whole country.
Late last week, a federal judge prohibited ICE from using chemical irritants, retaliating against peaceful protesters, and conducting traffic stops without reasonable suspicion. Orders Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem readily dismissed.
That federal order was a little ridiculous because that federal judge came down and told us we couldn't do what we already aren't doing. We only use those chemical agents when there's violence happening and perpetuating, and you need to be able to establish law and order to keep people safe.
That same CBS poll showing 54% of Americans believe Trump's policies are decreasing peace and stability at home and the rest of the world. Candice Cole, Global News, Washington.
In Ontario, a police officer was shot while responding to a mental health call at a residence in Oshawa. During that incident, Durham Regional Police says officers encountered a man armed with a knife. At some point, one officer discharged their weapon multiple times, striking the man and a fellow officer. That officer was taken to a Toronto area hospital in critical but stable condition. The man was also taken to hospital with serious but non-life-threatening injuries. Winter weather is affecting Canadians in multiple parts of the country. Large parts of the Trans-Canada Highway are closed in south and central Manitoba because of blowing snow advisories. The situation is expected to improve by tomorrow, and a nor'easter is on its way to Atlantic Canada, putting all of Nova Scotia and Prince Edward Island under snowfall warnings. Some communities could see up to 25 centimeters of snow starting tonight. It's been nearly a year since a young Ontario man disappeared from a Quebec ski resort, and his family is still searching for answers. The parents of Liam Toman were back in Mont-Tremblant today, raising awareness in hopes of generating tips to help police solve what they're certain was a crime. Dan Spector reports.
The Mont-Tremblant ski resort, about 100 kilometers north of Montreal, is known as an outdoor paradise to many. But to Chris and Kathleen Toman from Whitby, Ontario, it's the scene of an unsolved mystery that shattered their family.
It's challenging because we don't have closure, right?
February 2nd, 2025, their then 22-year-old son, Liam Toman, was on a weekend ski trip at the resort with two friends when Liam vanished after a night out. In spite of extensive searches by police, volunteers, and the family themselves, what happened to him remains a blur. 1 year later, they're back, raising awareness.
I truly believe that somebody knows something and they haven't spoken up yet.
That night, Liam and his friends Kyle and Colin were partying in Tremblant Village after a day of skiing. Liam got separated from his buddies and stayed at the hot spot Le Petit Caribou till closing at 3 a.m. He was then seen on surveillance video.
It looked like he was going somewhere, right? You could see in the video surveillance he was walking with purpose.
Liam texted his father by accident at 3:16 a.m. saying, "Meet me outside."
We scoured a lot of the chalets thinking maybe he was at a chalet or after party or went somewhere.
Then in March, Liam's wallet was found in a parking lot.
That confirmed for me, which I already felt very strongly, that something criminal has happened.
The family has made the trip here from Whitby about a dozen times. They're heartened by the outpouring of support from the local community. This man says he's searched for Liam for over 60 hours.
Every time we're out, we're looking.
There are posters up all over the village. They hope someone who may have been in Tremblant the weekend of February 2nd, 2025 can provide clues to Quebec Provincial Police. There's now a $50,000 reward.
We'd like to be able to bring him home.
The Sûreté du Québec tells Global News it is in the midst of investigating new tips that have come in recent weeks. Police invite anyone with any information to come forward. Dan Spector, Global News, Mont-Tremblant, Quebec.
Justice disparities by the numbers. Coming up, what a new Statistics Canada report reveals about incarceration rates for Indigenous and Black adults. At least 16 people have been killed as out-of-control wildfires devastate southern Chile. This was the scene in the city of Penco at dawn. Trees on the outskirts were being consumed by flames. Patients from a nearby hospital were forced out of the facility and escorted to safety by staff. Local roadways were also busy with people leaving the area. Around 250 homes have been destroyed. Drone footage shows entire neighborhoods decimated. Temperatures in the area have reached 38 degrees Celsius. The heat and high winds are hampering firefighting efforts. In Guatemala, at least 7 police officers have been killed in an outbreak of gang violence. Police officers in several locations were targeted by gunmen on Sunday, shortly after authorities raided a prison and captured a top gang leader. There have been riots in 3 prisons, with dozens of prison guards being held hostage. To regain order, Guatemala's president is vowing joint operations with the army and police. In the West Bank, dozens of Israeli settlers attacked a Palestinian community last night, injuring several people living there. CCTV footage of the incident appears to show the large group of settlers arriving at the village before setting fire to buildings. Some vehicles were also burned. The Palestinian Authority says multiple people were sent to hospital, including several Palestinian and foreign activists. The Israeli military says it's investigating and searching for those responsible. A vehicle believed to belong to the suspects was also located with clubs found inside. A new report is highlighting the discrimination that still persists in Canada's justice system. It shows Indigenous and Black adults are the most overrepresented groups in prisons. Jillian Piper has a look at the numbers and what advocates say needs to be done to achieve real change.
Reconciliation is now ours to achieve.
It's been more than a decade since the Truth and Reconciliation Commission spotlighted the systemic discrimination against Indigenous peoples in Canada, including within the justice system.
The calls to action will help bring about a new era for all of Canada.
But a recent report from Statistics Canada has found that new era is still far out of reach. From 2019 to 2024, the rate of incarceration for Indigenous people increased annually, with the agency finding Indigenous adults are imprisoned at a rate 10 times higher than non-Indigenous adults across all 6 provinces with available data.
When I first started, those numbers were quite similar.
Daryl Shackley has worked for more than 30 years to try to change that statistic, but says it has been an uphill battle, partly due to a lack of funding and ingrained social biases.
Justice should be fair, and right now outcomes tell us that, and this report tells us that it isn't.
Indigenous people were the most overrepresented group in Canadian prisons, but the report also found Black adults were incarcerated at a rate 3 times higher than white people in British Columbia, Alberta, Ontario, and Nova Scotia.
We have to understand that the historical marginalization of Black and Indigenous peoples may be perceived as something that is of the past, but it certainly has contemporary effects.
Advocates say this data underscores the urgent need for judicial reform, something Senator Kim Pate has been calling for.
There are huge opportunities here that have never been fully activated, whether it's through restorative justice types of approaches or whether it's through paying back in other ways directly to the community.
The federal government has developed Indigenous and Black justice strategies to address their overrepresentation, but Ottawa has also promised to be tougher on crime, introducing a bill last year with harsher sentencing and bail laws, a move Senator Pate says could harm marginalized groups. Jillian Piper, Global News, Ottawa.
Rideshare rules ahead, why Halifax is taking a closer look at how drivers are regulated and what it could mean for riders and fares. The largest city in the Maritimes is pondering whether it should become the latest Canadian municipality to tighten up regulations on rideshare drivers for companies like Uber. Halifax City Council will soon debate a proposed bylaw imposing new licensing requirements. As Heidi Petrachik explains, there's been both opposition and support for the idea.
When Canadians need city transportation, they often hail ride-sharing services like Uber or Lyft. But as they dominate the market, some municipalities are re-examining their rules, a move cab companies welcome.
I think it's important to make sure that the municipality is aware of who's driving people for hire.
In Halifax, taxi drivers submit their training documents and criminal background checks to the city for verification, whereas drivers with ride-hailing services only submit their information to the company they work for. Last month, a staff report for City Council recommended they be treated the same as cabbies.
The unfortunate reality is that the municipality wants to be certain that those record checks are being done in all cases, and just to know who's driving each vehicle. I think that's a very reasonable request.
Really, this is creating unnecessary red tape for drivers.
Uber Canada argues it already ensures drivers meet necessary requirements, and the city can ask for that information.
This is going to mean that every driver will have to do this, and it will slow onboarding.
This week, Halifax Council held off on debating the proposed change. The mayor, not a fan.
It's a model that I feel is overly cumbersome, drains staff resources, and drives cost for rides up for residents.
Rules for rideshare drivers vary across Canada. Toronto, for example, requires specific municipal licensing and collects information on background checks. Other cities are thinking of doing the same.
It really just depends on the rules. I mean, most Uber drivers and taxi drivers are just trying to make an income or have a source of income, so whatever helps them too.
Whatever makes it easier for people to drive the cars. I mean, we rely on them, especially, coming home from a night out.
Uber Canada says Halifax's changes would add several $100s in new fees for drivers. Costs, it warns, could hike fares. Heidi Petrachik, Global News, Halifax.
Assistive tech. Next, how a Saskatchewan man is turning 3D printing into practical help for people with disabilities. Everyday tasks many of us take for granted can be a challenge for people with disabilities. A Saskatchewan man living with a brain injury is turning his own experience into innovative tools designed to help. Ashley Behrens shares his story.
Hello, can you assist me? What is your name?
A man from Warman has found a unique way to use 3D printing and electronics to help others. Nicholas Vogan, who lives with a brain injury, creates assistive technology for people with disabilities, designed to help with both everyday tasks and fun activities.
There's lots of these jobs that can be done by people with various disabilities, and I feel like it is through assistive technology that can be done, and I want to be a part of making that a reality.
Vogan has made items like nail clippers, writing aids, and card holders, shipping his creations to people across Canada. He says the feedback has been overwhelmingly positive, like when a woman who has arthritis received an easy-to-grip doorknob from him.
So I made sort of, you know those Tylenol arthritis lids? They have the little grooves. I basically made one of those, but it slips over a doorknob. They really liked that and found it very useful, and I was happy.
Vogan creates most of these gadgets through a nonprofit organization called Makers Making Change, where people can submit requests for assistive aids they may need. Vogan then designs and sends the tools directly to them. The organization also helps makers purchase equipment they may need, like 3D printers, through grants.
It's a very good thing, because especially there's only 17 requests on there now, and I feel like there's lots of people that could use assistive technology, but they don't know where to get it.
Vogan says his passion for 3D printing drives him to keep creating, and he's encouraging people to reach out with ideas or requests.
If I got the time, I'm willing to work with you and try to come up with something that helps you out.
Ashley Behrens, Global News.
Creative for a cause. That's wonderful. That is Global National for this Sunday night. I'm Neetu Garcha. Tonight's Your Canada is Lac Le Jeune, BC. Thanks so much for watching. Donna will be back with you tomorrow. Have a great night.